everyone, my name is ellvna, and today we're gonna be reliving a sad time in my life. Today's video is going to be a story time because I have not done a story time in forever. I think my last story time was meeting Five Sauce, so it's been a while, and this story has been requested a few times. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be telling you the story of my worst concert experience ever. I've watched a few of these types of videos where people talk about their worst concert experience they've ever had, and I can guarantee you mine is so much worse than everyone else's. I'm not just saying that because, I don't know, because it's me. I'm serious. My experience is horrible. It was the worst night of my life, I think. One of the worst nights of my life. And I decided to share the story with you all because we can laugh about it now because it's been a while and I'm over it, kind of, not really. I'm still traumatized. This is a story of the first time I tried, emphasis on the word tried, to see the 1975. And if you know me, you know I really love this band. I'm a big fan of theirs, and when I went to this concert, everything just fell apart, and I'm gonna tell you about it. Well, I've got my 1975 Robbers merch that I bought at the concert. This was the only thing good that came out of that night. So, this video takes place sophomore year. November of sophomore year, so it's been about a year and a half since this happened, and I bought the tickets for this concert 9 months before the actual concert. So I bought the tickets when I was in 9th grade, and then I waited so long for this concert. The day came 9 months later, and I was so ready. I was so ready for this concert. I was so excited. So the day started out with me going to school for one period. I went for second period because the two friends I was going with, Cassidy and Sydney, they're gonna be a big part of this story, they had to go to their second period, so I was like, okay, I'll just go to my second period too. So we went to school for one period, and then after that we left. We left school at around 10 o'clock. We drove to the venue, didn't take that long, and we got to the venue probably around, I don't know, It was early, maybe around 10:30-ish, and the line was wrapping around the side of the building already. It was kind of long. We were probably like 70th in line when we got there. So we had our blankets, we had stuff to do, because we were going to be there for a long time, and we were ready to wait. We didn't care. We just wanted to be close to the front, and that was it. So we sat down with our blanket, and we were just prepared to wait in line, as you do for any general admission show. And we kind of made friends with the people around us. Most of the people in that line were like kind of bitchy. We waited in that line for, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours. It was a long time. It was a really hard wait because there was nowhere to really go. There was nothing to do. I was really uncomfortable. I wore something very uncomfortable. I wore like high-waisted jeans and like a jean jacket, and it was very uncomfortable. The venue was this long, it was more of a long building than tall. It was just a long one-story building in a parking lot. The line started from about 50 yards from the actual doors, and it wrapped around one side and then wrapped around another side, and we were like right there. So eventually the sun starts to go down. More people have shown up. Maybe about 300 more fans are now behind us, weaving through the parking lot. Everyone's in their rightful place. People that got there late are at the back of the line where they should be. People like me and my friends that were earlier were near the front, as we should have been. There was one part where the line started getting very antsy and rambunctious because the line wrapped around the spot where the buses pull up. So at one point the band, freaking the 1975, got out of their tour bus in front of everyone, and everyone at one point was like running down there to say hi to them. I didn't because it was a mess over there, and I was just like, whatever, like they're not even gonna stop. But towards like 5 o'clock, everyone started getting very, as I said, antsy. Everyone was very like ready to go in, even though we still had like an hour left. I think doors were supposed to open at around 6. or 6:30, I don't remember. And it's starting to get dark because it was in November, so it got darker earlier. And then this is where everything goes downhill. So we're all standing in line, ready to go in, and then I don't know what happened. I seriously do not know who started this, why it happened, but all of a sudden, everyone from the back of the line starts sprinting towards the front. Like, it's a whole stampede. Imagine a stampede of Tumblr enthusiasts just charging towards you, and everyone at the front of the line is like, wait, what the hell is going on? And then they literally start a mob. A mob starts in the parking lot of this venue, and the whole line goes from a single file line to a big glob of confused and angsty teenagers. Everyone from the back of the line just starts running towards the front. I shoot up out of my seat. I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? Me, Cassidy, and Sydney, we had all of our stuff with us. We had all of our backpacks and all of our stuff and all of our blankets that we were sitting on, and we didn't know what to do because everyone from the back was cutting and running to the front, and we were like, what the fuck is going on? And then poor Sydney is like trying to grab our blanket and it's like, I don't know where to go. And I'm like, girl, I gotta go. So I start running towards the front, and it's a whole sea of people. So basically it goes from a single file line to a blob of pushing and shouting people at the very front of the line. And I lose all of my friends. Like, I don't know where Sydney went. I don't know where Cassidy went. I don't know where any of my other friends that were there were. I was like, what just happened? It happened so quickly. Like, one moment we were all just in a line, and then boom, like that, everyone was going insane. People at the back of the line that had just gotten there were now at the front, and people that had been there all day were getting yelled at by security and being pushed all the way to the back. And I'm like, yo, this is not fair. Finally, I spot Cassidy and Sydney. We still all have all of our stuff in our arms, and we're like, where do we put this? Luckily, Sydney's mom was coming anyway to pick up our stuff, and she got there just in time. We threw all of our stuff into the trunk, and we were like, okay, we'll just get it later. I was talking to my friends. I'm like, where do we go now? Because there isn't a line anymore. There was no line. It was just a crowd of people trying to push their way to the front. So luckily, my friends, well, this is actually when I met them, but if you watched my Whisper challenge, my friends Taylor and Kyrie, they were there, and Sydney was like, oh, my friend Kyrie, she has a spot near the front, let's go. So we find Kyrie and Taylor, and we just get in line with them, and we're maybe like 30th from the front. And like, we did cut everyone, but at that point, it was everyone for themselves. Like, someone screwed the line up so bad that at that point, I seriously did not care. I was like, I need to find a place in line, and I just need to get in there. Find Taylor and Kyrie, we get in line, and we're standing there holding our ground. I'm literally like this, trying to keep people from cutting me because I'm so pissed off at this point. So everyone is trying to get in front. Everyone's claiming that they were at the front to begin with, but meanwhile, I know these are bitches that were in the back the whole time. So the front of this new line was about 50 yards away from the actual entrance to the venue. So security was taking people at about groups of like 15 at a time and leading them down the hall. So I had my arms linked around Sydney and Cassidy, and we're just like moving in, slowly just inching our way towards the front doors, and people are shoving me and they're pushing me and they're like trying to get by me, and they're trying to be discreet about it. They're kind of just like moving around me, and I elbowed so many people. I was so frustrated at this point that some cult decided to start a mob before the doors opened that I was just like, nope, get back, I'm done with you, goodbye. We get to the front doors, there's security scanning the tickets, I have my ticket out, and I'm looking at my friends, I'm like, guys, when we get our tickets scanned, we are running. And I was prepared to run. So we finally get to the doors of the venue. The security guard scans my ticket, and right when he does it, I am booking it. We run into the venue, and we find a spot in the crowd, and we were about 7th row. And I was like, oh, thank God that is over. And At that point, I was like really frustrated that the line got so messed up and people were being so unfair about it. Like, I knew people in front of me were not supposed to be in front of me, and I felt bad for the people that had been there all day. You know? It wasn't fair. Someone just decided to start a mob, and thanks, whoever you are. But then we had our place in the crowd, and I was just like, whew, okay, everything's fine. People start filing into the crowd. The room gets filled with people. The stage is being set up. Everything is back to normal as a normal concert goes. Here's a disclaimer. This is not shade to the 1975. They had nothing to do with this. But, and this, I'm not trying to like shade a fan base, but oh my god, these fans were vicious. They were so annoying. I'm gonna be like completely honest with you guys. Like, this was weird. From the moment I stepped into the room and I found my space to stand in, I felt very weird about this whole thing. You'd expect a 1975 concert to be very chill, but these fans were nuts. Like, they would not stop trying to push by me and like shove me out of the way, and I was like, guys, it's a small room. You're gonna be able to see. Stop trying to get closer. Finally, the room is filled with all the fans. People are waiting for the show to officially start. It just gets worse from here. So I'm standing there, very squished. I'm like this. There's people surrounding me from all sides. I can barely breathe. Like, if I try to take a deep breath, my lungs can only expand so far before I'm like pushed up against someone. Just keep that in mind. So I start to feel very claustrophobic, which I usually am not that claustrophobic. I've never felt that way in a concert crowd before. I'm usually not claustrophobic. I don't know what was happening, but I just felt very, like, trapped. And then the walls were all painted black. Everything was painted black. It was just the room itself was pretty small. It was very narrow. It was long, but it was very narrow. Then I start feeling very hot because there's so many people squished up against me. Their body heat's on my heat. I'm starting to sweat. I start to feel very unsafe. I felt very weird, and I've never felt this way before in any situation. I thought once the show starts, people will simmer down and just, you know, watch the concert and calm down. And I'm like, okay, it's very hot in here. I'm feeling claustrophobic, but it'll even out once the show starts. So I'm just taking deep breaths. Cassidy is starting to feel a little weird as well, and I'm like checking up on my friends. I'm like, are you guys good? And they're like, yeah, we're good. Are you good? And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm okay. I feel a little uncomfortable, but whatever. And then, oh my god. Not only was this my worst concert experience ever, it was also the first time I had a full-blown panic attack. I had never had one before this, but this night was horrifying. The lights go down, you know, that means the show's about to start, and everyone goes berserk. People are screaming, people start running from the back again, and they're shoving everyone in the front up against the railing, up against the wall. I'm being pushed up against people I don't even know, and then the opening band comes on, which was Young Rising Suns. So I am literally like this. If I picked my feet up off the ground, I would not fall. That's how squished it was. Everyone was just up against me. I was literally choking. My heart is pounding. I'm sweating. I'm so hot. I start feeling very lightheaded. I was looking around and like everything was starting to blur. And I was like, oh shit. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I was experiencing at that moment was a full-blown panic attack. I was freaking out. Everything starts blurring out. I can't see. Everything goes black. I'm opening I can't see anything. All the noises, all the screaming, the bass from the music, everything is just so overwhelming to the point where I just break down into tears. I start screaming for my life. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, get me out of here, get me out of here, I can't do this. So that whole night, my friends, the people around me who were actually, they were kind of nice. They were kind of nice because they were starting to notice that I was breathing heavily. I was starting to shake, and they were like, are you okay? And I kept saying, yes, I'm fine. I'll calm down once the show starts. But at that point, when Young Rising Suns were on and everyone was just going crazy, at that point I gave up. And finally Cassidy was like, Ellvna, are you okay? And finally I was just like, no, I'm not. Get me out of here. Tears are streaming down my face. I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused. I'm so scared. I can't feel any part of my body. I can't breathe. There was no room to breathe. That's how crowded and squished it was. And finally I just tilt my head out and I'm like, help! Like in that moment, I was so scared. I honestly thought I was going to pass out and I didn't know what to do. I've never been in that situation before. And this is the worst part of the entire night. So, I hope I'm doing a good job of explaining this. I don't know if I am. This is really hard to explain for some reason. My vision is even more blurry because of the tears running down my face and I'm screaming, help! And this guy beside me, he was so nice, and he looks over to me, he takes my shoulders, he turns me to him, and he looks me dead in the eyes, he's like, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna get you out of here, okay? And then, so then he starts going like this, like pause, and then he taps everyone around us. He's like, guys, help her out, help her out. Everyone around me starts going like this to Young Rising Suns, and everyone's like, pause the show, pause it, she needs to get out. Basically, I paused an entire concert. It started with just him, and then it spread to the whole front half of the crowd. Everyone around me was going like this to the band, and then finally the guitarist for Young Rising Suns notices, and he's like, wait, what's going on? So then he runs over to Andy, the lead singer, and he taps him, and he's like, guys, stop, stop, stop. And then all of a sudden, the music stops. Everything stops. The band stops performing. The whole show is put on pause. Everyone in the back that doesn't know what's going on is very confused, like, wait, what's going on? And so I caused this. Everyone around me was like, she needs to get out, she needs to get out. And I was so embarrassed, but at that point I did not care because I was so overwhelmed and so scared that I was just like, take me. So there were a few security guards on the other side of the barricade. They got up and they were like, what's going on? And then everyone around me was like, they need to get out, they need to get out. Both me and Cassie were freaking out. We were both having a panic attack, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. People move to the side and they make a pathway. And I rush through this little pathway up to the barricade. I'm flopped over the barricade, trying to catch my breath. I'm like, and then the security guard is like, what do you need? I'm like, I need to get out of here. Young Rising Suns are standing there 5 feet away from me watching this all happen. Finally, the security guard wraps his arms around me, picks me up, and carries me out of the crowd. And I know plenty of you have probably seen this happen in concerts before, whether you were there or you saw a video, but if you've ever seen a concert pause so people can get helped out of the crowd, that was me. I was that bitch, you know? I was sobbing my eyes out. I was still trying to catch my breath. I was still very confused on what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. I turn around and I see that Cassidy was the exact same way. And we were both just very, very shocked and confused and very out of it. So everyone there is watching us get carried out of the crowd, and finally we get escorted to the outside where there's like fresh air, and then we hear Young Rising Suns in the venue telling everyone to calm down because they noticed that the crowd was way too rowdy, and they were like, guys, please tone it down a little bit, this is not supposed to happen. All three of us are like sobbing. I was so pissed that just happened. I just waited 10 hours for this concert. I had to deal with a whole mob of fans. I had to elbow everyone out of my way coming in. I had to finally get in there only to be pulled out. Ah! Stop! God, f off!
Did you get that on film?
Nope.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
I scared the shit out of you.
We are so pissed off that we just waited and went through all of that stress just to be pulled right out of the crowd and sent to the back, basically. When we were led back into the venue, we were escorted to the back of the venue, the very back. And It was still like a pretty good view, but we were really disappointed. So me, Cassidy, and Sydney, we talked about it for a little bit, and we were like, okay, what if we tried to just, you know, weave through the back and try to get towards the middle, because the back half of the crowd was very spaced out. Like, no one was huddled around each other. Everyone was just kind of doing their own thing in their own space, and there was a lot of open space to just walk through. If we tell people that we were the ones that just had to get pulled out of the crowd and put the whole concert on pause, maybe they'll understand. We're like, okay, let's just try to find a spot in the middle, just to be kind of closer to where we were before, because we didn't want to give up. So we start cautiously walking through the crowd. We're not pushing anyone out of the way, we're just weaving through them because there was space to. And then we passed by this group of adults. They're maybe like in their mid-20s. And we were just, you know, walking by them. We didn't push them out of the way. We didn't even touch them. We were just like, oh, excuse me, sorry. And then this guy, who was obviously very intoxicated, he must have snuck in alcohol or something, because he was definitely drunk, and he like grabs us. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, we're just trying to get back to where we were before, because you know, we had some difficulties at first, and we're just trying to find a spot towards the middle of the crowd. And he's like, oh, you're just trying to cut us, right? And I'm like, no. Do you remember when those 3 girls had to be pulled out of the crowd because they were having anxiety attacks? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, that was us. So now we're just gonna try and find a spot towards the middle of the crowd. All of his stupid drunk friends start laughing at us. They're like, oh, you had anxiety attacks, really? And I'm like, are you laughing at me because I just experienced the most scariest moment of my life? Like, I'm laughing about it now, but at the time, I felt like I was being attacked. The whole group of them just started laughing at us. Like, oh, you think you can cut us just because you had an anxiety attack? F off. And I'm like, do you think I'm lying that I literally just experienced the most traumatizing moment of my life? And they didn't believe us, and I was like, you watched it happen, or were you too drunk to realize? So then at that point, I start sobbing again, because my feelings are now hurt. And so we go back to the back of the room. I'm crying again. We're all crying. The band hasn't even come on yet. It's still the second act. And finally, I just had enough. I did not want to be there anymore. End of the story. We left, because I could not handle being in that room any longer. Everyone in that room was very mean, and no one had respect for people's personal space. The security of that venue was horrible. They watched all of this unfold without doing anything, until finally the fans around me had to pause the entire concert. And it's like, once you leave the venue, you can't come back in. So we were standing by the door, and we were just like, you know what, screw it. So we left, and we were standing out in the parking lot waiting for Cassie's mom to come and pick us up. All of a sudden, we start hearing the trumpets and the crowd cheering, and everyone's like, yeah! And I just break down sobbing, because now the 1975 are out and we're outside. I'm still trying to catch my breath. I'm still very confused on what even happened, and I'm just so done with the entire night. I just want to go home and never think about it ever again. And finally, Cassie's mom came by, picked us up, drove us home, and we never even saw the concert. So, to wrap this horrible story up, I bought tickets to see the 1975. I waited 9 months for the show to come. I waited outside the venue for 10 hours. I lost my spot in line because everyone at the back of the line started a mob and ruined everything. I had to elbow people out of my way because I was so done with them while going into the venue. I had to experience my first panic attack in a GA crowd of a concert, and I know GA crowds are, you know, that's what to expect in GA crowds, but trust me, this was so different. It was vicious. It was like World War Z. And then to top it all off, I had to be the reason why an entire concert stopped, so I could be pulled out of a crowd and watched by hundreds of people as I bawl my eyes out and get escorted out of the venue by security. So that is my worst concert experience ever. I hope you enjoyed. And obviously, I'm not trying to throw shade at the band or the fans or anything or be a victim because it happened. I had never experienced anything like that before. I didn't know what it meant. I was just very confused that entire time. And that's how it went down. It's okay because about a year later, I finally saw the 1975. I was with Cassidy, Sydney, Taylor, and Kyrie. It was like a reunion. We saw them together and it was a very, very fun night and I'm very glad I got to see them. But yeah, so I did get this shirt though. I bought it before I left because I was like, you know what? I need a Robert shirt because it's so cute. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, my name is ellvna and that's me over and out. Bye!